current events, government, Constitution are so important to teach today. I think a lot of our citizens are coming out of school without the knowledge of those things, how they work, what's expected of them as citizens. I think democracy, all it asks of its citizens is that they become involved enough or pay attention enough to what's going on in their town, their state, their nation, their world, so that they are informed to step into that voting booth. When you think that approximately 50% of the eligible electorate in this country did not get off the couch to step into that voting booth, it's appalling in the so-called greatest democracy in the world.
The past 10 months or so since the election of Donald Trump to the presidency have sparked much dialogue and discussion about finding ways to bridge the political divide revealed by the apparent polarization of the electorate following the election. Finding ways to communicate with others of differing political viewpoints was one theme of a recent gathering at the Manchester Community Library, where about 90 people gathered several weeks ago to get a better understanding of views different from their own. The current political environment, many feel, seems to have sharpened and hardened previously held views, and tolerant discourse has suffered. On Thursday, August 17th, about 30 area residents gathered at the Spiral Press Cafe in the Northshire bookstore to hear a follow-up discussion on a related topic. How is civic literacy being taught in area schools? Suzanne Ordway, one of the event's organizers, along with two other area women, Martha Heilman and Peg Gregory, explained how it came about.
Right after the election, a group of 30-plus women came together because we were concerned about the political climate at the time. And what we wanted to do, we determined, was to be a positive force moving forward. So out of those meetings came this committee, Education Committee. And this evening, we want to bring to you our mission. Our mission, number one, is to learn more about civic literacy in our schools, plural. Number two, to support our teachers in their work in schools and out of schools. And third is that we want to foster civic literacy in our communities. So
three local teachers, Eric Schatz of the Manchester Elementary Middle School, Jeff Chamberlain of the Maple Street School, and John Graff of Burn Burton Academy, discussed how they approached teaching students about government and the role ordinary citizens play in a democracy. What are our rights and responsibilities? And how are students of today and voters of tomorrow forming their ideas about political discourse? What's acceptable and what isn't?
To me, civics literacy has to begin with the notion that each and every one of us has a responsibility to either add value to the community we live in or work in, or the society in which we live. And for young people specifically in the elementary grades, I think this starts at home and in the community and in the micro communities in which kids dwell, circles of friends, classrooms, the playground, clubs, teams. And I think my role as the teacher of civics, and at this level anyway, is to guide them to view their own actions as something that is adding value to their community or not, and to engage them in seeing that and observing that in themselves and in others. This is sort of a foundational part of what we call our social curriculum at Men's, which focuses more on the behavioral aspects of community membership in a community rather than the civics. But the idea is foundational. The idea that you're doing things that have consequences. Your actions have consequences, and that these can either add value to the community or they can take value away from the community.
And so, for me, it's civics literacy is what is government, what's its role, how does it work, and what is our place, your place, as a member of society, as a citizen. From there, I think you start kind of moving outwards. I imagine it's in the center and we move outwards. And I think naturally, and you've already spoken of this, Eric, a little, the relevance, if you're going to talk about that, you're going to talk about your local government. You're going to talk about even the school government, the student council. You're going to talk about state government. You're going to talk about national government. I think those, and what tends to, for me, I use current events a lot to act as an access point to learning about civics. I think that's probably, in terms of as an educator, what's my role is really trying to find the entry points for all the students to access what can be, I don't know, if you say civics, it can sound like, oh no, civics. I don't know, I've always felt, what does that mean? It can be very difficult. I try to probably never even use the word civics in the classroom. I might sneak some of this stuff under their nose. It's something, I teach 5th through 8th grade, so it's something I'm nibbling at constantly rather than it's a section or a unit part of what we're doing for this 6-week period, and not to come back to it. It's something you keep coming back to.
I see civic literacy kind of being broken down into 3 kind of major components. The first one is the knowledge, having the knowledge of how the government, how the community works, both local, state, national, global. And also having knowledge of the history behind that. So that's the first piece. The next piece I would see tied into that is understanding the role of the citizen or the individual within that process, again, at those various levels. And then the final piece, which is probably the most challenging as an educator and as a community, is fostering continued interest, passion, responsibility to participate in that process. So that's kind of that third and final piece. You're without any, if you're missing any of those 3 pieces, you're kind of failing in the hopes of having a kind of civically literate students society. So as an educator, or both as an individual and then also thinking about an educational community here, my colleagues at Burton, I feel it's really our responsibility to kind of address those 3 areas, and that starts all the way down to elementary school.
Afterwards, Suzanne Ordway talked about why they felt it was the right time to hold it and the next steps.
So when we met, we identified topics where we thought we could make a positive change going forward. And we were concerned about what was going on in schools. People had questions, is civics being taught? What is being taught? Why don't kids know what we expect them to know? And why do we have a low voter turnout? Where's the disconnect? So that's where we started our thinking. And so a little committee of the 3 of us, Martha, myself, and Peg, got together and we decided that this would be a really good first step. Let's get the teachers in so the teachers can inform the community about what's happening in schools. We'll bring this, we'll meet again and we'll talk about the next steps, and we listen to what folks had to say tonight. Our principal was here from Manchester Elementary Middle School, and the town meeting idea, we'll begin to explore that, we'll begin to develop that. And getting the teachers involved in school, we'll talk about, okay, what's our next step there? So those are just a few ideas.
For the GNet TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.